Welcome, everybody, to Johnny Torch Live number 14 and the Torch News Roundup number 56. Wow, time flies. So how you doing? Happy Labor Day. How's it going? Enjoying your time off? I'm enjoying my time off here, but I'm enjoying my time off more because I'm with you. All right, so we've got a lot of stuff to talk about here. I've got a special. There's not a whole lot of news really to be had this week, so I decided to try to do another ranking video, another ranking session. So later on tonight, we're going to do my top 10 favorite screen villains. Top 10 favorite screen villains. So, as always, let me know your list. Put your list in the comments below. I don't know if I can get to that too much, because when I do ranking videos, I don't look at the chat very much, because I'm trying to keep, the rhythm going of my thoughts on whatever given subject. But especially at the end of the show, or maybe during the news, if you have something to say, feel free to add your comments. Came back from Zach Pope's channel. He's doing a live stream too. I guess Labor Day brings out the live stream in all of us, huh? Great channel. He's got a great live stream. Uh, Definitely check it out. He's got a great channel. He reviews movies, talks video games, all the kind of stuff you're interested in. I'm interested in. Everybody's interested in. He does it. Absolute great channel. So check out Zach Pope on YouTube. All right, so let us get into the news here now. Um, First off, let's see. Is there any other bases I want to cover? Let's see. We've got. I'm tempted to do some NFL talk because I'm such a big fan of the NFL, but I don't know. If that's quite the demographic here. So I'm going to briefly just touch on the Thursday game. You see, I was supposed to do a Saturday show, and at least that's podcast. I said I was going to do a Saturday show. That's usually my regularly scheduled time. I'm finding it easier to do shows Mondays and Wednesdays for some reason. I have more spare time, so it might be switched. On the one hand, I apologize for not doing a live show. Saturday was busy. On the other hand, Monday or Wednesday format's better. I find time, usually Mondays or Wednesdays lately, to put on a live show. So, like just said, just briefly, the NFL, we've got the Thursday night game is the first game of the season. The Kansas City Chiefs at my very own New England Patriots. It's always fun to see, the Patriots start off the season, for me anyway. Uh, I'm not going to go X's and O's on you, but I think the Patriots should probably be able to handle the Chiefs pretty easy. Again, I don't know if I do a Saturday show, maybe I'll talk more about the upcoming week in the NFL, because I'd like to, spend maybe 10 minutes on the NFL if I can. But as of now, we'll just take a look at that Thursday game, and yeah, I think the Patriots probably will have this game well in hand. Also, I want to apologize in advance, as usual. If the sound cuts out, I don't know. I don't have the greatest equipment. I am not the most affluent of YouTube broadcasters. I want to thank everybody that does tune in and enjoy the show. I hope you can enjoy it. I hope you can hear it as well as possible. Thank you for tuning in. All right, so let's get to the news. Torch News Roundup number 56. Good old 56. Okay. And as always, you're going to have these long pauses of me trying to bring up the image. But let's see what we'll start with. Here we go. I'll start with this because this was breaking news. This news came out just as I was putting the finishing touches on the and here we go. There it is. David Kopp, the writer of Indiana Jones 5, is saying that Mutt Williams will not be in Indiana Jones 5. Now, this doesn't come as I don't think to most of us, because not only was the character of Mutt Williams not greatly embraced by the public at large, but quite honestly, Shia LaBeouf has gone nuts lately. He's kind of wackadoo. And there was also talk of him bad-mouthing the movie after the fact. So this really doesn't come as a huge shock, I don't think, to anybody. But as far as David Kopp is concerned, anyway, the screenwriter, Shia LaBeouf is not returning for Indiana Jones 5. Mutt Williams will not be back, which leads to the very important question: well, just then, who is Indy going to pass the torch to? Because it's pretty much been accepted that this film is the last Indiana Jones film, and Ford is going to be, I don't know, early 80s at the most generous estimation. I think he told, I forget who it was, Jimmy Fallon or something, that he wanted to do Indy, before he's 80, preferably. Film. It looks like the film is going to be made relatively soon, but the problem is now, who does Indy pass the torch to if this is the final film? And they're going to want to keep the Indiana Jones franchise going. And I personally always thought this was a good idea to have Indy pass the torch, to his successor. It's the name Indiana. Don't think you recast Indiana Jones. There are certain characters you don't recast. I don't think you recast Indiana Jones. I don't think you recast Rocky. I don't think you recast um well, Luke Skywalker. It's kind of tough because then you get into, like, now they're recasting Han Solo as a young Han Solo. So, maybe if it was a younger version of the character, I can see recasting, but that's kind of tenuous. We already had Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which was, an acquired taste. That's the way I describe that show. Because on the one hand, I liked it. I actually liked Sean Patrick Flanery. I thought that he was a pretty good Indiana Jones as a young Indiana Jones. It was just the stories that were pretty blasé, to use a old-fashioned term. But anyway, so, well, what does this mean? Maybe Short Round will come back, and Jonathan Quee, I can't remember the rest of his name, but he's still a stuntman, I think, in Hollywood. Maybe they'll get him back. Maybe he could be the successor. Excuse me, the successor for Indiana Jones. It begs the question. I don't know. And I think I've already gone into this, but I one of my other hopes is that they don't set the film too much in the future, in Indy's future, because obviously 10 years have passed since Crystal Skull, and that means we probably would be in the mid 60s. And that's not really the era for Indiana Jones. I don't see Indy interacting with flower children and the Cold War and stuff like that. He did, have Russians as the villain, and but that was more of a the Russian scare was kind of a, inbred to the 50s. That was something that was, really part and parcel of the times. So who would be the villain for Indy 5? I don't know. Again, I don't know. You also have to remember, um, I don't think that Shia LaBeouf was the problem with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I probably like that movie more than most people, I suppose. I don't know. Um, he was all right. See, the thing is, Shia LaBeouf, I really liked him on Even Stevens. And I was quite a fan of him in that show, especially like the later seasons when he got a little older, and I expected him to be the next Jim Carrey or something of that ilk. And they tried to make him a action hero. And I'm not sure if he was cut out to be an action hero. That's kind of where we are. That was the course that his career took. But anyway, so it looks like Indy will pass the torch to somebody else. Again, no word as of yet who else is going to be starring in the film. Marion supposedly be coming back, I guess, because they've also left hints that the film is going to pick up after. Well, it's not going to be like ignored. It's not going to be a soft reboot, so to speak. They're going to pick up where Indy is a married man. So obviously, Marion is going to have to return in some capacity. Excuse me. Kind of hot out today, I think, here in lovely Torch Tower. So we're going to need a little more H2O on hand. Anyhow, so yeah, I'm just rambling about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull if you just tuned in. Didn't really think it was that bad of a movie. It was clearly the least of the Indiana Jones saga, but I always felt that they really captured the lifeblood of Indiana Jones. I remember Steven Spielberg saying he just wanted Crystal Skull to be a blood relative to the rest of the franchise, and I felt like they accomplished that. You still have Indy getting a beat down by a bigger adversary. You still have the creepy minutes or something, that scene. You still have the gross out villain demise, things like that. It felt very much like an Indiana Jones film. The whole thing is, though, is that everyone will agree that the alien um, MacGuffin, so to speak, probably felt way too out of place in an Indiana Jones film. Um, Again, that's something that I don't really know what they could have gone after, but hopefully they'll go after a more, the typical religious MacGuffin that Indiana Jones always went after in the original trilogy. I mean, the Shankara stones were a little bit esoteric, you know, but stuff like the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail, that's stuff that people could get behind. And, the Crystal Skull it felt more like a mystery or something, like they were trying to do a mystery story or something. And I don't know, it just didn't fly quite as well as we'd have hoped. All right, so that's my, quick take on and the news. Shia LaBeouf no longer going to be attached to an Indiana Jones 5. All right, next bit of news we got here. This is, of course, it's going to take a while here before we get into the next. All right, let's see. There's got to be a better way to do this. All right. Is kind of rumor mill material, but because, well, everybody else is talking about it. Reports are saying that WB is courting Leonardo DiCaprio to play the Joker on Joker origin film. Now, I think this rumor is bogus, and I'll tell you why. It was what? He's like 40 now, something like that. And if this is an origin film for the Joker is not going to be 40 years old. I mean, if anything, they're going to cast somebody that's like 18 years old so that you can believe from the 1980s to now, then the Joker would be 40 right about now if he was, in his teens in the 80s or something. So I don't think this is going to happen. To be honest with you, they're saying that he is attached again. Don't know for sure if that's a done deal. They're saying Jared Leto is not too happy with this film because he's not going to be cast as the Joker because he wants, presumably, to be the Joker in this film and not have a competitive actor with his performance because he's still the Joker Loves Harley movie and he's still attached to the Suicide Squad sequel, I believe, and possibly to the Gotham City Sirens movie. So I'm not sure exactly how many films he has on the docket where he's going to portray the Joker, but he wants this one too. Now, I'm not a big fan of DiCaprio. I don't know if that's an unpopular position. I'm not really that crazy about him as an actor. He kind of reminds me of a Tom Cruise, although actually I would probably even put Tom Cruise over DiCaprio as an actor, as an all-purpose actor. But let's be honest. This film is going to be made. Anybody in the comments, let me know if you think a Martin Scorsese DiCaprio Joker movie is actually going to be made. This is just DC EU executives once again throwing stuff at the wall, hoping something sticks. To 2 days from now, they'll have another big project that's going to make big headlines, and this will fall down to forgotten status, and it'll never be made. And DC EU's modus operandi for some reason. They just keep trying, throwing stuff at the wall, hoping it sticks. Nothing ever sticks. You know, for the few and far between times they've been successful, nothing seems to stick. I personally don't want to see this film. I don't need Leonardo DiCaprio as the Joker. Uh, Personally, if he gave me his old address book, maybe I'd let him be the Joker. I don't know. Off. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you want Leonardo DiCaprio to play the Joker in a solo Joker movie? I don't know if original Spider-Man back in the 90s when it was going to be James Cameron directing. So he's no stranger to being to these kind of superhero films. Okay, so we got other news here. Let's get right to it. This is probably the biggest story of the past week, which was the casting of, let me pronounce this guy's name right, because I'm not too sure about it. Brenton Thwaites will be the new Dick Grayson in the Titans TV series. Not TV series, I guess it's a streaming series. Let's get technical. Why don't we? I don't know. But um, so he was the young lead, so to speak, in the fifth Pirates movie. I can't remember his name now. I saw that film once. I even did like a haphazard review on one of my previous live streams. So for more about him, but you know, the gist is his performance was pretty good. I guess he'd be pretty good. He's a British actor, I believe, or Australian, something like that. But so it's an interesting choice. Dick Grayson, I suppose. I don't know. A lot of Dick Grayson casting never really came easy to me. I don't really know. Word on if he's playing Nightwing or Robin. Probably Nightwing. I would guess due to his age. I don't know how old he is, but I would imagine Robin to be a little bit younger. He's probably a little bit older also because they're probably going to have him romantically linked to Starfire, which, if you watch our last broadcast, we went into that whole uh, casting of Starfire for this show, Titans. So, just taking a wait and see approach here. I don't know if I'm even going to watch this show. I think I mentioned that last week, but hey, you know, I'd love to see the Titans get a great show. I mean, they were a great comic. I never really was into the comic too much, but characters came like Starfire, like Cyborg, the Titans, but you know, he's in Justice League. But that's another story altogether. But you know, they wanted to have some diversity in Justice League, so they put Cyborg in instead of John Stewart. I'm personally all right with that because I would rather have Cyborg than John Stewart because I want to start with Hal Jordan. I'm a firm believer that you start with the default character before you start bringing in the substitutes and stuff. I mean, you know, it's like starting Captain America with Bucky or starting Captain America with, you know, Sam. If they want to put them in that costume later, you've had to start with Steve. Otherwise, what's the point? You know what I mean? You're bypassing a lot of, you know, the original character, the original persona that was in that character. All right, so let's move on now and let me know what you think in the comments about the Robin slash Nightwing casting for Titans. All right, let's take a look at this next story here. We've got story, but just to Jean Grey here again. Ah, Jean Grey. Simon Kinberg, who is directing the Dark Phoenix feature film, heard as saying, and I quote, let me see. He's going to find a way to ground the film so it's not too intergalactic. Kind of is a head scratcher to me because we've already had the grounded X3, the X-Men's Last Stand. And that was their version of the Dark Phoenix. I don't particularly know why they would try to ground it a second time, especially when the rumors have it that Lilandra's going to be in it. I I don't know if he's talking about grounding it thematically, grounding it, you know, emotionally. Maybe that is what he's talking about. But he says we've got to find a way to ground it so it's not too intergalactic. That's what's causing a lot of people to say, well, maybe he doesn't want it to be solely in space. I think if you want to see the Dark Phoenix done properly, look at the animated series. Look at the 90s animated series. That's like 5 episodes of joy right there. I think it's 5 episodes. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time. One of the strange things about Marvel is they don't put any of their animated series on DVD from the past. I mean, they've got some more recent ones. Like, for instance, I've seen in the store is Wolverine and the X-Men. I actually like that show quite a bit, and I was tempted to get it. I think it's only $10 in your local Target or something. But man, the animated series on DVD, they don't have they have like sampler 4 episodes of Spider-Man and meets Daredevil and stuff like that. Whole series of X-Men out. They need to put the whole series of Spider-Man out from the 90s. Great shows, and you really can't see them anymore. But anyhow, you want to see the Dark Phoenix done properly. That's the place to find it in the animated series. I was hoping for more here. The new feature film. Not sounding too promising, but we will keep an eye on that. And hopefully, I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest with you. I really want to see a good version of the Dark Phoenix. Not to say that I disliked X-Men 3. I did. I liked it a lot. But it was less Dark Phoenix and more the Cure storyline. Comic name of that storyline was, but the Cure and everything. All right, so let us move on now. We are going to, let's see. All right. Briefly, now they're saying Joss Whedon is going to get a writing credit for Justice League. Obviously, he is doing more tinkering with this story than originally believed. Some were saying, "Oh, he's just cleaning up after Zack Snyder and just finishing some shots." Nothing to really write home about. Maybe throwing in a few witticisms along the way. But to get a writing credit in Hollywood, that is a big deal for a movie. You don't just get a writing credit for writing a few lines. Um, basically rewrote the entire script for Superman and Superman 2. Didn't get a writing credit. It was still credited to Mario Puzo, the story, and the story literally was completely changed. Same thing with and he got a creative consultant credit. So, see, that's the way they finagle around it and try to there's a noisy car going by. I don't know if you could pick it up, but that's how they get around things. And so for him to get a writing credit, I believe, if I remember correctly, I heard you have to have written 33% of the new screenplay. So it looks to me, and I'm all for it, because to be frank with you, I'm disappointed in the DCEU. Zack Snyder's films, especially. I very famously hated Man of Steel. Didn't like Batman v Superman all that much, although I did say it had some redeeming action in the last act. That's basically all it had going for it. So let me know what you think. Do you think this is a good thing? Joss Whedon, Joss Whedon also was touch and go as well. I mean, Avengers was an excellent movie, probably the all-time greatest superhero movie besides Superman. But then Age of Ultron comes out, and I don't know. It wasn't a disaster, but let's just say it was disappointing. Oh, we've got one more story here I want to cover before we start getting to our top 10 list. Is the news Han Solo film. A tweet, I believe it was, of Ron Howard introducing our new cast member to the film, and there we go. Is it up there? Yeah, okay. Oh, I actually don't have this in my notes. Okay. So yeah, Ron Howard tweeting out that a new cast member was announced. I can't remember his name, and I don't have it in my notes. This is live broadcasting. This is what happens in live broadcasting, people. He plays the Vision. Now, but I really don't want to. I really don't want to help myself out here. He plays the Vision, and he's married to Jennifer Connelly. And he is now, I guess, presumably playing a villain because, as we know, Michael I don't remember his name either. Williamson is, last week we mentioned that he's out of the film as some kind of villainous hench person. Paul Bettany, I knew it would come to me, has been cast. He's probably going to be some kind of hench villain, I guess. He's dressed very Han Solo-ish, though, in a couple of pictures I've seen. So this begs the question, is he going to play Han Solo's dad? I don't know. We've got Woody Harrelson as his mentor. As far as I know, he's playing the mentor role. And for this guy to, for Paul Bettany to be dressing up in such similar fashion as Han Solo, I'm kind of thinking maybe he's playing his father and he's not playing. Maybe this is where there were, arguments between the directors and the studio where they wanted to go in a different direction, and this is where they wanted to go, and Ron Howard was more happy to go that way. We will find out when Han Solo's still untitled solo film is released in May of, I don't know if they're going to make it that fast. With all the shenanigans going on, I'm sure they're probably going to have to postpone it till December again. Although, like I said, I'm not a big fan of December time slot. It should be May. Okay, so just one more thing I'm going to touch on the news before I get through this here. The trailer just came out for Them by Gaslight. The, I guess, Elseworld story, of course. It's like a reimagining of Batman in Victorian England, based on the comic version, which I never read. It's essentially Batman versus Jack the Ripper. And it looks pretty good. I mean, I'm kind of jaded when it comes to, you know, DC animation. Nothing has really excited me from them for a long time. I mean, I missed a couple of films. I never got around to picking up Justice League Dark. I probably should. Um, I didn't get Batman Meets Harley Quinn yet, or whatever that's called, although it's getting terrible reviews. I think the last one I got that I really liked was Bad Blood. I think Flashpoint came before that, so that's why I'm saying Bad Blood. Flashpoint was the last exceptionally good film, animated film. I don't know what they call that. Is it still DCEU? I'm not sure. But Bad Blood I thought was pretty good. It wasn't nothing special, especially since Batman didn't have a big part in that film. But I'm looking forward to this. I'm thinking this looks pretty good. You've got this like Victorian era Batman where he's wearing like a Sherlock Holmes cape. I think Selena Kyle is in it. The would-be victim of Jack the Ripper, and his Scotland Yard detective. It looks like a pretty interesting reimagining. What I hope would be the case with this one is that, like, at the end of the movie, like, Bruce Wayne wakes up and Alfred is like, it's time for dinner. And he's like, oh, I was just watching this, Victorian movie or something, and he just had this this wild dream about it afterwards. That would be funny. I would like that. That would be hilarious. I've never seen the story, so I've never read the story, so I don't know if it's going to be quite to my taste. But I thought it was quite interesting because I'm not usually that interested in these animated films. I'm usually like skeptical to say the least, and this does look interesting, if nothing else. Okay, so before we close up our Torch News Roundup number 56, let me point you to the description below. We've got a link there for Twitter page, which I am running a poll now, the poll of the week. I did this a lot before on the Torch News Roundup, and I wanted you to vote in the poll if you haven't already. This week is trying to bring back the poll of the week question a little more often lately. With the upcoming superhero shows coming back. And so the question is, of the upcoming new seasons of the CW shows, which one are you looking forward to the most? Flash, Supergirl, and Legends. Now, ironically, it's so far the ranking is the way I listed them. But Coming in, I've got 25 votes so far, which is very good for me. My polls are usually under 3. So thank you for everyone who's voted already, and please continue to vote because the poll will be open until, I believe, until Sunday. Okay. With 12% of the vote, Arrow comes in 4th place. With 16% of the vote, The Flash in 3rd place. In 2nd place, with 28% of the vote, Supergirl, which was surprising to me. That seems to be a sort of a contentious show. Some people hate it, some people love it, some people are in the middle. More than I dislike it, but it does have its most issues that all the shows have is with Supergirl. With 44% of the vote, Legends of Tomorrow. So that sounds pretty. That would be my pick, Legends of Tomorrow. I think that's like the most interesting with what they've done last season. If you look at what they've done season of all 4 shows, I think you really got to go with Legends for really, they're just being unafraid to just get cartoony and comic booky and crazy. And Legends of Tomorrow is just, embracing it. Where you got stuff like Arrow, which is kind of rounded, and you got Flash, who is like the show's getting unwieldy, like spiraling into all kinds of different areas. Supergirl is bogged down with a lot of JW crap. So yeah, I would say Legends of Tomorrow is the best show of last season and the one I'm looking forward to the most of the upcoming season. Looks like it's going to be an interesting season too. We got dinosaurs and all kinds of crap. That's what we left off with last season. Okay, so let's get to the top 10 list. Now my top 10 favorite screen villains. Now this was a tough one because I'm not going by just comic book film, not going by just Star Wars film. This is a good mix-up of everything. And there are some honorable mentions I'm going to get to right now before we get to the to the. I wanted to put Ivan Drago on there somewhere. Most of these villains are sort of, I mean, I know Drago killed Apollo, but he didn't quite make the cut. Another one that I wanted to make the cut badly was Green Goblin, William Dafoe. He didn't quite make the cut, so he's an honorable mention. Think of him as number 11. And so, mentioned before we get into the list, these are villains. They all have one thing in common. They're all black-hatted, dark-souled villains. There is no two ways about it with this. So you're not going to see Darth Vader, which would surprise a lot of people because I always felt he was more, he was good inside and needed to be redeemed. Nito, who's also another one of my favorite villains, but he's kind of, he's got his reasons where he justifies to himself why he's doing what he's doing. I'm not putting any of those villains on this list. This is all black soul. They'll break their grandmother's leg for $1. This is the worst of the worst. These are the baddies that ain't nobody gonna mess with. Okay, so with that out of the way, of course I love Magneto, and Loki didn't make the cut. Another one that's kind of in that mold where he's no. These are all just bad dudes. These are bad guys. All right, so number 1 here. Well, no, we're gonna do it backwards. Of course, we're gonna do from 10 to 1, and tell me if you think, what you think your favorite screen villains are, or in the description. I mean, in the comments. Okay, here we go. So number 10, I started with. Now this one was a little bit difficult for me because I don't think one like on his own, but number 10, Darth Maul. Darth Maul from the Phantom Menace. Love this guy. Just the look. I mean, he looks like the devil himself. So he's got the look down pat for a villain. He's got the villain. And I took this shot specifically for this reason because I love this scene. He's like prowling like an animal. I mean, he's just got no remorse. He's vicious. He's going to take that lightsaber and drive it right through you the minute he gets a chance. And, Ray Park did a great job. Just the eyes alone. He did more speaking with his eyes than, speaking vocally. Just a great performance. And, he was capable like nobody else. The first time we've ever seen a Sith or Jedi, really, but a Sith so capable in combat. I mean, a match for Qui-Gon, more than a match for Obi-Wan. He's just got that great look. And like I said, he carries himself is what put him on the list. I mean, the way he carries himself is the Sith passion. You can tell he's full on Sith. There's no two ways about it. Unlike Darth Vader, where you can tell he has moments of restraint, but you know, take 2 seconds, he'll take your head off. And just great performance. Ray Park, Darth Maul, my number 10 off the list, I think. This one is going to surprise a lot of people. Excuse me. Not many people are going to think of this guy. But in my opinion, he was one of the greatest superhero villains, one of the greatest comic book movie villains. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it while I call up the picture, because I don't know if anybody ever picked this one on their lists. But for me, Colonel William Stryker from X2. I just love this guy. This guy was a great villain. He was like, he had sort of that quality where you could sympathize with him, but not too much. Because I think that's fine to have that quality in a villain where you see where they're coming from. And we'll talk about this later when I get to some of the other ones a little bit higher up in the list. Knows he's doing the wrong thing. I mean, he's got kids. He's got kids locked up that he's, I guess, presumably going to experiment on, mutant kids. I mean, he's not a good guy. But you can see that what happened to him led him to where he is, because his son was a mutant that was so powerful and so messed up that he looks at the world so skewered now from what he's been through. Excuse him for being the kind of villain that he is. He just seen his wife die because his son's mutant powers, in her head and stuff. And Brian Cox, just a great actor. This guy doesn't get enough credit. He should have, a career that should be like the tip of everybody's tongue. I was disappointed that they didn't go back to him for Wolverine Origins. I know a lot of people don't like that movie. I didn't mind it. It's one of the lesser movies, obviously. It's not a great movie, but I think he would have elevated that movie so much. Danny Houston played Stryker in that film, and he really isn't much younger than Brian Cox, so I don't know why they didn't bring Brian Cox back, because when you think of it, in X2, Stryker says, "Oh, time. I don't look the same," or something to that effect. Anyway, and so you would think they'd have gone with a younger actor, but a lot of people don't even want to remember Wolverine Origins anyway, so it probably is not going to be the biggest issue. But a great actor. The scenes with him and Patrick Stewart are among my favorite in any superhero film. That's another top 10 list in itself. The greatest, scenes in a superhero film. They would make some of the highest ranking scenes because they just played so well off each other. Brian Cox and Patrick Stewart. So that is our number 9, William Stryker. Again, I beg your pardon as I grab for a little H2O. 8. This one is a little bit further back. We're going to go a little further back for this one. Mola Ram from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. We got some Indiana Jones talk earlier today, but obviously, look, the dude is satanic. He's in a satanic cult. He leads a satanic cult. How much more evil do you got to be? The guy rips out people's hearts with his voodoo, and just Temple of Doom is a masterpiece. Really, it's an underrated masterpiece. I always like Temple of Doom. The only thing Temple of Doom I think has against it is a bit slow. I mean, you have the great opening scene with the Shanghai nightclub. Then you've got them wandering through India. You have the dinner scene, and then you have the prolonged romantic scene with Indian Willie. And I'm not saying that I don't like those scenes, but I'm saying I think when you compare Temple of Doom with Raiders, and they're more the traditional pump out the action, bang, bang, bang. We're going to go from one scene to another. Temple of Doom is more traditional, where builds up into the temple, and that is when all the suspense happens, and it's like a thrill a minute from like the last half hour on. But yeah, Molaram Amish Puri, I believe was his name, the actor. He's passed on sadly now, but great villain. And again, he's irredeemable. He's a black heart. He's whipping children and slave labor with the children and stuff. Guy's a bad dude. You definitely wanted to see him get his comeuppance. One of the great scenes, one of the all-time great lines for me of all time in history. Prepare to meet Kali from Indiana Jones. That's one of my all-time favorite scenes as well. All right, so number 8, we have Mola Ram from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Okay, number 7. Now, this was a little bit tougher because I didn't know which one I wanted to put as number 8 and which one I wanted to put as number 7. I'm going to put him higher. Number 7, we're going to go with one Rene Belloc. Um, yeah, so the thing about Belloc is I've got a soft spot for villains that have that dark opposite number to the hero. Now, he even has like a speech, another great scene. I love hero and villain conversation scenes. Like I said with Patrick Stewart and Brian Cox, just great scene there. And they had a great scene here too with Jones, where Belloc is saying, I'm a shadowy reflection of you, and you could be just like me if you ever did try to step out of the light. So I'm a fan of that kind of thing, and one of the great things also about Belloc is that it's like he wanted to be Indiana Jones, and he wanted to take like all the shortcuts of being Indiana Jones. He's like never worked for anything. He stole whatever he got from Indiana Jones. He wanted to take everything he had, basically, even to the extent of Marion. It's like an interesting concept. I don't think he even really had any feeling for Marion. He just wanted her because she belonged to Indiana Jones. And it's like, a really rich character, and just great performance too by the actor, Paul Friedman, I believe. Great actor. Also hasn't really gotten his due. He's done a couple of things I've seen him in, since. But yeah. So number 7, Rene Belloc from Star. Kind of sad that he never survived that film to come back, do a young Indiana Jones or a prequel Indiana Jones type thing. They should have shown how they met and have a young Belloc, you know, pulling the wool over Indy's eyes, and that's how we got to know, from the famous scene at the beginning after the boulders. Too bad the Jovitos don't know you the way I do, Belloc, because there's obviously a long history between them two, and we only see them two for 2 hours. The time we've seen them, but you could tell there should have been probably like 5 movies before Raiders where we get to see Indy having to deal with Belloc time and again. It's like I said, one of my favorite things is sort of the Moriarty character, the dark opposite, the yin to the yang, so to speak, of the hero. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. We've got some more time. All right, this one was difficult for me because I didn't know if this one really qualified because I think I think most of us think of him more as a television character, but there was actually a feature film playing this character, so I'm going to that alone. We are talking about, of course, Joker. Can't beat Mark Hamill's the Joker. Joker is one of the all-time great villains, and so he's going to have to make this list. But I'm sorry to, Jack Nicholson, Ledger. Mark Hamill really owns the Joker, and a lot of it, of course, is due to his great performance as the Trickster. Let's not forget that. But uh, Joker was in Mask of the Phantasm, which justified in placing him on this list because that was a theatrically released movie. I don't really think it's really that movie. That's really not the appeal I have for the movie, is the Joker in that movie. He was much better in a lot of the show, the animated series. But I don't know. Well, he was important to the plot, of course, because he's tied into, I guess semi spoilers. He's tied into the plot of the Phantasm. He's tied to the origin of the Phantasm. But again, I'm not a big fan of when they tell the Joker's origin story. They made it a lot more subtle here than they did in Batman '89, so props for that. I don't have any problem with the way they handled it, really. But also a very dark Joker in this one, up until the very end. I think at the end, the whole Batman versus Joker fight was sort of obligatory. You needed to have it because that's what they do, Batman and Joker fight. But that was probably the best part of the movie for the Joker in that film because he, got to be a little more humorous. All right, so of course, favorite Joker of all time has got to be Mark Hamill, and he comes in at number 6. All right, we're getting into our top 5 now. Our top 5. Let's see here. Number 5. This is a more obscure one that I don't know if too many of you are going to remember before. You have to check out the movie because movie alone to watch. Boom! Frank Langella as Skeletor in Masters of the Universe. This guy pretty much wrapped up every villain that you ever wanted to see in one villain. He's Skeletor. That's the whole thing right there. Frank Langella, his greatest performance. I mean, he played Dracula, and I didn't think he was a bad Dracula, but he's a great villain. He's got that weird thing he does with his eyes, and he does that with Skeletor as well. And he just steals the show. I mean, that's not to say anything against Dolph Lundgren, who, of course, he almost made the list as Ivan Drago, but he really stole the show here. Just he's got the presence of Skeletor. Of course, this is a more darker Skeletor than the TV show because, of course, the animated show, he was sort of prissy and cranky and why can't I win? And of course, this one made him much darker and much more formidable. And this is what I hope to see in a Masters of the Universe movie, in a live action movie. I want to see Skeletor be threatening. I want to see him be scary. And he's really scary. I mean, I wouldn't want to see this dude in a darkened room. Has the presence, like I said, he has these great monologues, particularly at the end of the movie when he's trying to gray skull into himself. Again, a lot of people, I don't know if I say bash the film, but just don't take it seriously, take it for granted because it's a canon film and they didn't have a big budget, and so it's set, and the places in Eternia where they are set are basically barren wastelands, and you have the big gray skull set. But it's still a great movie to me. I know there's also a segment of fans that are ultra want it to be just like the cartoon, and they're like, well, there's no Battle Cat, there's no Orko, there's no Prince Adam character. But you have to remember the limitations of the '80s, and in the '80s, you really didn't have a whole lot you could do with practical effects. I mean, the CGI now for Battle Cat would be easy. CGI for Orko would be easy. Of course, back then they had to have Gwildor as sort of the Orko substitute, where he was sort of an inventor or something instead of a magician. But that's what I mean. They basically tried to facilitate all the characters in as cost-effective a way as possible because Canon Films didn't have no money. That's a long story all on its own. They made Superman 4, of course, and they made Masters of the Universe. But yeah, like I said, real scary villain. He's basically flogging He-Man. I mean, that was like great stuff, powerful stuff. That's stuff that you probably never see again. You could do it. And the costuming, of course, was great. He looks like he stepped right from the cartoon with the hood and everything. Is even more, probably more a great image than the cartoon. The cartoon, of course, you don't see the eyes and everything, and I think they even really improved on the look here and with the fangs and everything. Also, they hinted at a romance with Skeletor and Eva Lynn, which was interesting because, as far as I know, no incarnation of Masters of the Universe ever did have any kind of romantic interest for Skeletor and Eva Lynn. I thought that was great too. I kind of really liked the way they did that. Found it very interesting that nobody ever picked up on that in any of the other later incarnations. They kind of always had Evil Lynn as sort of elf, and there was no romance. But Yeah, Meg Foster played Evil Lynn with those great eyes, and was quite the equal to Skeletor. But there we go. Number 5, Skeletor from Masters of the Universe. Villains. We are now going number 4. Is probably not going to surprise anybody. We had a couple of surprises here so far. I have a favorite villain list without this one. Without the Khan Noonien Singh. Yes, pretty much, sadly, the only Star Trek villain that really gets the high praise due them. There's not too many others. I mean, love Commander Krug in Star Trek 3 was great. Um, I'm talking about the movies now. I mean, I don't know about the TV shows. Maybe you could find some others. Of course, the Borg Queen. But yeah, this is a great performance by Ricardo Montalban, one of the great all-time actors, of course, classic actor. You got to start in MGM doing musicals and stuff, and many think of him now as the Fantasy Island guy. But we have a great performance that began in Space Seed, of course, we have to remember. But we really owe a lot to Harv Bennett for bringing him back and resurrecting the character. Because to be honest, as much as it was a great performance by Montalban in Space Seed, we wouldn't have the Khan we have if not for the Wrath of Khan. He just kicked it up to another level. So great, this performance. He is just single-minded in his villainy. And that's the thing. Of course, the director, the to the part. I'm blanking on his name again. I can't remember everything. I probably should have all these names written down for me to do it. But the director brought this kind of thing as well to Khan, where he is the Ahab white whale, and Kirk is the white whale. And it's this great revenge tale that a revenge tale can usually be pretty boring. It's just, I want to get this guy, and that's it. But in the case of Wrath of Khan, what makes it so strong is the performance of Montalban. And like I said previously with Colonel Stryker, you feel for him in a way because you know that he suffered and you know that he has loss. Case here where his wife has died from in between the Space Seed to Wrath of Khan, and he blames Kirk for that, and he's just going about it in an irrational way. Because, of course, if he had not tried to take over the Enterprise and tried to conquer, basically, you know, inhabited planets, he wouldn't find himself in, a deserted wasteland. Of course, Kirk didn't even leave him on a deserted wasteland. It was a, habitable planet. A little harsh, I think, if I remember Spock's description of it, but habitable. And so manifests this evil and this hatred for over a decade. I think it's 15 years. And it's just such a great performance when you see he's like a nobleman and he's trying to keep it together, and he just spits out this venom when he just can't contain it any longer, and it's all he lives for now is this revenge. And you don't really see a character play the revenge part this well. You don't see it that often, where his every encompassing moment revolves around getting revenge against Kirk. And of course, William Shatner gives a great performance in this film as well. Great story, great film. And like I said before, I think I've said it elsewhere, but this film is a lot of people that are detractors of this film. They say they're disappointed because Khan and Kirk never share the same screen. They never share the stage. They never have a fight. I mean, Kirk has thrown hands with Krug in 3 and stuff. Why didn't they do that here? That's what makes it all the better. It's a, this pent up frustrations that they both want to strangle each other in the worst way, but they can't touch each other. They can't get over there one on one and just duke it out. They're just trying to blast each other out of the stars, but in the nebula they can't see each other and stuff. It's just this great thing where there is this great um passion really to destroy one another. Kirk is like just had it with him. He is so fed up, and it's that great famous delivery from Shatner, Khan. And it's just because you can feel reaction on Montalban's face when he does that. It is priceless. It is priceless. He is just like, that's the only joy he's got in his life now. That's the only thing that turns him on, is that Kirk is suffering. And that's all he wants to do, is make Kirk suffer. He doesn't even want to kill him. I mean, he'll kill him eventually when he gets through making him suffer. But he wants to make him suffer. Dude don't get much eviler than that. So, yeah, Khan is got to be up there in the all-time baddies list, number 4 on my list. All right, next up, we are going to go to number 3. We're getting close to the end here now. Let's see. Who's going to top Khan? That's a tough one. This is a little bit different. I don't think a lot of people have him on their list too, but and I'm not ashamed to say it. Number 3, we have Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor. Is so much fun. You talk about like the hate, and you talk about the darkness, and you talk about the evil. We got to talk about fun. Lex Luthor is the most fun villain I think I've ever seen. The guy just loves being evil. He's unapologetically evil. And that's what you love about a villain sometimes, is the fact that wrong, they don't care what they're doing is wrong. They just want what they want, and they're going to do what they do. And that is the way Gene Hackman's Luthor is. And I would love to see more and more of that nowadays in villains, particularly back in Lex Luthor, because we're seeing nowadays post revamp, it's like Luthor thinks he's doing the right thing because aliens are taking over, and he's a, you know, humanitarian or whatever that wants to do good for humanity. That's, to be honest with you, that's boring. I don't find that interesting at all, that take on his character. I like to take on the character where he just wants to be rich, he just wants to be powerful, he doesn't care how he goes about doing it, and he's just going to do it with a gleam in his eye, a smile on his lips, and a song in his heart. I mean, that's basically the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor in a nutshell. He loves being evil. You know, the famous line that Reeve has, is that how a warped brain like yours gets its kicks? By planning the death of innocent people. And he says, without missing a beat, Luthor, with a gleam in his eye, no, by causing the death of innocent people. And he means it. This is not a joke, really. I mean, he's a flippant character, but he has no compunction of killing somebody to get what he wants. Like he killed the guy in the detective in the earlier scene with a train. Great performance all around. Gene Hackman don't get enough credit for his comical performances, especially, but he was a great actor. I haven't heard from him. I think he's retired. I don't think he does any acting anymore. In his 80s, so he's earned it. He was very prolific in the 70s, of course, the French Connection and all the other stuff he was doing. But I'm so thankful that Donna got him for Superman, because he was just great. Even in Superman 4, which a lot of people hate, and I don't hate it so much. Why don't I hate it so much? Gene Hackman is in it. Gene Hackman almost single-handedly turns that film around, because he just gives a great performance. And again, one more thing that I've mentioned before, the greatness of the villain is also the way he interacts with the hero. And in this case, the hero, being Christopher Reeve, they play off each other so well. Even in Superman 4, when they have that scene on the balcony, where he's introducing Nuclear Man, they just play off each other so well. And it's just such a great marriage of characters, good and evil. It's just a wonderful performance on both their parts. And so that is our number 3, Lex Luthor. All right, who do you think's going to be in the top 2? Anybody have any ideas? You have any guesses on who you think I'm going to have here on my favorite top? Also, should not be a surprise if you know me at all. He's one of my favorite villains, one of the all-time best, and that would have to be as General Zod. Again, another character, unapologetically evil. Don't give a second thought to killing you if he has to, if he wants to. There is no remorse in him at all. There is no redeeming qualities in him at all. I think it's one of the great performances. Again, that is almost a Satan character. And one of the great things about Zod is, he's obviously, the way he was written by Mankiewicz was to be a Satan character. He wants Jor-El, who is God, of course, in this analogy, to be subjugated to him. He tries to get him on his side and wants to be, he wants Jor-El to be second to him. That's a very telling comment when he says, "Your voice could be an important part of the new order, second only to my own." He wants to have everyone under his rule, under his authority. Of course, much like Satan and Jesus, Satan wanted Jesus to kneel before him in the temptation. In the same way, Zod's only true desire is to have Superman kneel before him because he hated his father and he feels, you know, again, we get that revenge very strongly. That's his only real drive. I mean, he wants to rule, and that's what he says, to rule, to finally to rule. But when he rules, he finds that there's no joy in ruling when you're the top dog because there's really nothing else, everything's beneath you. So the only thing that brings zest and glory to his life is to be able to subjugate Superman. Character, motivations. A great villain, Zod is. And again, the interactions between Terrence Stamp and Christopher Reeve, second to none. Once again, like I said, and as Jesus crushed the serpent, so Superman crushes Zod, his hand. Another one of my favorite scenes of all time, one of the all-time great scenes. And like I said, there's such great subtext to that character and to that rivalry, that relationship between him and Superman. It's such a great character. Stamp plays him so wonderfully. He's just got that bottled up rage as well for revenge, much like we said with Khan. And like I said, just so many layers too of greatness to the character, and so many great lines. Of course, he wants everyone to kneel before him. He wants to be top dog, and he wants everyone subjugated beneath him. Just a great character. Terrence Stamp, again, another actor, deserves performances as a villain in all cinema, but especially in comic book cinema. I mean, touch him. All right, and here, of course, we've got the #1 favorite screen villain of all time. For me, I think you could guess it because he's noticeably absent so far. Carded, black suited, redeemable character. We have the Emperor. Emperor Palpatine, yes. We started with Darth Maul and we finish up with Darth Sidious. Sheev to his friends, which I never really liked that, Sheev, but hey, I guess he had to have a first name. They just came up with that one. Ian McDiarmid gives a great performance here. So great seeing him come back and seeing the origin of Palpatine in the prequels. I personally love the prequels, as everybody that watched my show knows. He gave a great performance, of a humble politician that he's playing the part of, and he's climbing the ranks to sort of a stoic, president, and then he's becoming, the dictator and the, despot, and then by the time we get to Return of the Jedi, which is my favorite segment of his performance here, he's just another one where he's top dog, doesn't have any concerns. He's just letting it all hang out, and he's having a good time. And that's kind of like one of the reasons why I also picked this image as well, because he's just he lives for corruption. He wants to corrupt. He wants to corrupt Luke. He wants Luke on his side or anymore. He's like, just get me the newest model. Let me have the top dog. Keep me in power. Corrupting something or somebody. That's all that matters. And he's another Satan character, once again, where he is, like I said, the ultimate agent of corruption. He corrupted the Senate. He corrupted the galaxy. He corrupts Anakin. He tries to corrupt Luke. That is another reason why some of the greatest villains, have to be corruptors. They have to be tempters, because there's nothing says evil like spreading evil. He wants to make more evil. He wants to make more Sith and have the Sith rule the galaxy. I mean, obviously the rule of two, and he's not going to make more Sith than he can handle. But, he has no compunction of, when he didn't need Tyrannus anymore, gets rid of Tyrannus. When he doesn't need Vader anymore, he'll let him go. he's just willing to corrupt and use and abuse and just keep himself on the top, no matter what means it takes. You know, again, also the performance, great performance by Ian McDiarmid, just a great actor that also doesn't get a lot of credit outside of the role, but he's just a great actor. The makeup, especially in Jedi, was amazing. It didn't look as good in Revenge of the Sith, and of course, some people point that out. But you have to remember, Ian was getting older. They had a lot more work to do where they couldn't keep applying. It just became more of a one-piece pull-on. So it's just it is what it is. But that original Return of the Jedi makeup was just so spectacular. He's both scary, but you can't help but look at him. He's not that gross scary, you know what I mean? He's not that disgusting scary, which is always fun because you want to have that line where, and George Lucas was good at this, where he's scary but not afraid. You're not afraid to look at him. He was trying that with Darth Maul too, where he's scary enough, but you're not afraid to look at him. He's not repulsive, in the sense. So anyhow, yeah, great performance, great role, and he's the baddest of the bad. He's evil, and like Darth Maul, his Sith passion is what really is his downfall. He's like he's single-minded in his wanting to destroy Luke. He turns his back on Vader, doesn't even give a second thought that he's got Vader in his pocket. He thinks he can torture in front of him. That's how much confidence he has. That's how evil he is. That he's so confident that he corrupted everything and everybody. He doesn't think it's possible, that anybody could get the upper hand of him. And that's the overconfidence that ends up doing him in. I always found that interesting as well. That the Emperor tells Luke, No, Luke tells the Emperor, your overconfidence is your weakness, and your faith in your friends is yours. But the fact is, the Emperor was also having faith in Vader that was misplaced, because he thought that he could kill Luke and it wouldn't even phase Vader. So basically, the Emperor had more than one weakness. All right, so I guess that about wraps it up. We've gone about an hour, a little over an hour now. So that is our final uh, villain here of the top 10. I will go over it one more time just to be a completist, because that's what you're supposed to do, I guess, is go over it. Number 10, we had Darth Maul. Number 9, Colonel Stryker. Number 8, Mola Ram. Number 7, Belloc, Rene Belloc. Number 6, the Joker, Mark Hamill version. Number 5, Skeletor from Masters of the Universe movie. Number 4, Khan Noonien Singh, the Ricardo Montalban version, of course. I know nowadays a lot of these are more than one person, so I should specify it, but Thor, the Gene Hackman version. Number 2, General Zod, the Terrence Stamp version. And the number 1 all-time baddest of the bad, top 10 favorite Scream villains of all time, Emperor Palpatine. So there you have it. Thank you for joining me on your Labor Day weekend. I hope you continue to enjoy it. And I will try to get another video up. Maybe I'll try again Wednesday. If I don't have time, I'll try again Saturday. As far as channel updates go, don't have that much to tell you. I haven't really started another review to write yet. But as I said, I've got the Halloween videos coming up for October, the horror movies, the classic horror movies. I'm probably going to be watching some of them, writing them down, but they're not going to be done until October. So if you don't see any more reviews or things of that nature, that's probably what I'm doing in lieu of other basic reviews. Okay, so one more time, I also want to point you to the Twitter page. The link is in the description below. Vote on what CWDC show you are most looking forward to coming back this season. We have Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. So far, Arrow's in 4th place, Flash is in 3rd, Supergirl is in 2nd, and Legends is in 1st. And I want to thank you for watching and all, and remember, This is Johnny Torch reminding you, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.